Call the meeting to order with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much for coming. Welcome, everyone, and welcome back to school. Roll call, Mr. Lundberg.
Baum.
Yes.
Bodie. Yep. Hagelin. Absent. Klatt.
Yes.
Schrader.
Yes.
Okay, before we go through the approval of the agenda, Superintendent Larson has a couple things to add first.
Madam Chair, I would note that we have two items to note on the proposed agenda. The first is a correction on item F8, personnel, recommendation to hire Amy Glameyer. The actual contract amount is $40,861, which is for 168 days of service, which is the prorated salary for the salary schedule amount of $44,023, which falls on the salary schedule. The correct number is on our visual agenda here. And then the second is an additional item, F10 personnel, recommendation to hire Justin Loveland as the FFA advisor for $2,430.29. That is also on the visual agenda above. That's all I have.
Thank you very much. Any questions? If there are none, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented tonight.
Move to approve the amended agenda.
Second.
There's been a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. That takes us to F, conflict of interest disclosure or waiver request. Do we have any of those tonight?
No, Madam Chair. No waiver request tonight.
Thank you. That takes us next to approval of the minutes from the regular meetings of August 8th and August 22nd. I would entertain a motion to approve those as presented.
So move.
Second.
There's been a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. That takes us next to the financial items, bills and claims. Mr. Lundberg.
I'd entertain any questions from the board members of the bills and claims that we submitted in your packet this week.
Sure, I have a question. Could you scroll to, I think it's creative something, it starts with a C, and it's regarding the intermediate school addition to the Smart Lab. Could you talk to us about that?
Somewhat. It's an enhancement to our current Smart Lab. Go ahead, Nick. You probably know more about it than I do. I know it's an enhancement that we didn't buy when we originally purchased the Smart Lab, and they're purchasing it now.
That was when we had that final proposal bid, there was like a $15,000 line item that we didn't decide to purchase. That was called the Advanced Exploration Kit. So what we added in was video production. So we're working that right now, and we're actually doing our announcements, trying to get them live, but we're throwing them on YouTube, and kids are doing that stuff. So that's what that part was. So I asked for that this year as the extension component with it that we didn't get last year, or the 2 years ago.
Okay. Go ahead. I'm checking, see if I had any others marked. It's a total of $1,143,000. A lot of still paying for the summer supplies and materials that we ordered throughout the summer. Like I said, total $1.1 million. $7,400 advance payment breakdown follows that. A ton of pay vouchers, a lot of curriculum work. The month of August being paid in September, $51,000. $112,000 of food service bills.
Any questions for Mr. Lundberg on the bills and claims? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve those as presented tonight.
So moved.
Second.
There's been a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Financial report, Mr. Lundberg.
Okay, just quickly going through the August cash report, $7,691,000. I'm reading on the third column of the cash balance report. Coming into the month, $7.7 million. $1.8 million of receipts, and $3,575,000 worth of disbursements, left just under $6 million at the end of August. $5.2 million in the general fund, $48,000 in the capital outlay fund. You can see how we drained the capital outlay fund early on in the process, because a lot of those projects and equipment's ordered right at the beginning of the year. $208,000 in the special education fund, $400,000 in the pension fund, $5,000 in the bond redemption fund, and $32,000 in the enterprise fund. The $1,843,000 is itemized on the next 2 pages. The investment report, $3 million CD with First National Bank. The payroll for the month of August was $1,381,000 total. The related deductions and benefits are itemized for your review. The trust and agency report had $129,000 at the end of August. I also included in this month's financial report a year-end summary of the 15-16 school year. If I could just take a couple minutes to go through that. I hope you appreciate the fact that it consolidates 100 pages of numbers into something that actually somebody can understand and relate to. The general fund, you can see, had a budgeted deficit of $450,000. Actual numbers came out to be $265,000 deficit. The revenue was at 99.7% of actual. Now, there's a lot of ups and downs there. I'm just coming up with some off the top of my head. Bank franchise tax was down $150,000. Our enrollment last year was up about 30 kids, so that'd be on the positive side of $150,000. Our gross receipts taxes were down about $40,000, I believe, in total. So there's a lot of back and forth there, but in total, it hit 99.7%. Our expenditures, as we talked about, probably too much during the year. We're at just under 99%, 1.1% under, which amounts to $240,000. The revenue being $55,000, we had a net of $185,000 to the good. Our budgeted deficit was $450,000 and our actual is $265,000. The fund balance at the end of the year then is $5,262,000 in the general fund. Capital outlay fund had a budgeted deficit with the project that we went through this past year. We planned on that $1.7 million deficit, ended up with a $1.4 million deficit. A majority of that is just timing. On the expenditure side is timing of projects. Some of those projects are carried over from the previous year, and some projects are paid in advance for the next year, so that's where the expenditures don't hit right at 100. That was at 98. And revenues came in at 104%. If you remember, we had I'll term it leftover funds from the capital projects at Brandon Valley Intermediate School that we transferred about $75,000 from leftover monies on that whole building project that we came in under budget. That money transfers into the capital outlay fund. So the end of the year fund balance in the capital outlay fund was $1.9 million. Special education fund had $275,000 budgeted deficit. The actual came in at $369,000, as we talked about during the year. Some struggles there with some expenditures coming in during the year, changes in the expenditures for specific items in the special education fund that became very expensive. And on the revenue side, our Medicaid revenues were down this past year, even more than what we budgeted for them to go down, and they went down even further. Both our direct and indirect Medicaid revenues that we get off of in the special education were all down, actually about $100,000, so that affected us there on the revenue side. Ended up with a fund balance at the end of the year of $47,000 on a $5 million budget. So as we talked about during the budget project, not much. We do have a surplus in the 16-17 budget of about $100,000, so we're hopefully going in the right direction in the spec ed fund. We plan on going in the right direction anyhow. Pension fund had a year-end fund balance of $722,000. Revenues, expenditures were right in that 100% category. Those are pretty well planned out in both the pension and bond redemption fund. Bond redemption fund had a fund balance of $740,000 at the end of the year. So I just want to review that. We'll be going through our audit this week, so the numbers will be verified in the next couple months. But that's where we're at right now.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lundberg. Any questions? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the financial report as presented tonight.
So moved.
Second.
There's been a first and a second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. That takes us to general business administration reports. Administrative Center Superintendent Larson.
Madam Chair, just a couple quick things. We have a safety committee meeting scheduled. That'll involve administrators from each respective part of our school, high school, middle school, and intermediate school and elementary. Principal Schleckaway will be facilitating that process, review of safety plans, processes, protocols, etc. We also have 2 board members that will serve on that group, and then also a parent representative. Buildings and Grounds Committee, I'm going to ask those gentlemen later if they're able to schedule a date for me to review the 5-year plan, look at enrollment numbers. And then also, previously I'd mentioned school improvement plans would be submitted for our first meeting in October. I'm going to alter the date that those are due to allow our administration some additional time with their staff, and they will be brought forward for your approval at the second meeting in October. So that's all I have. I'd entertain any questions.
Thank you very much, Superintendent Larson. Mr. Lundberg, anything else tonight? Thank you. That takes us to the high school. Dr. Talcott.
Quick things to run through with you. As you see, we have the newsletter, so that carries a lot of the information that you might see. Quick updates, because we have a couple new things going on, and so I think it's okay, it's important in the first cycle to kind of make sure you know what's happening. The SRP, the Student Responsibility Period, is something new to us. It's that 9th period. All of our freshmen are in SRP for the first midterm, so for the first 4+ weeks. I'm hearing lots of good things from our teachers, just saying, you know, I've got kids coming in after school to see and to get help and all of that. So very pleased with SRP and the role that that's playing so far. The freshmen will be there through the end of the midterm, and then after that it'll be all academically driven for all grades. The other piece, of course, is the introduction of the computers, and again, very well received by the students and by the staff, and I think we're continuing to see more and more ways that they're getting used over the course of time. So I'm excited to see how that stuff continues to play out. But if you ever have a question about either of those things or anything else, please feel free to get a hold of myself or Mark or Randy if it's in terms of activities. Speaking of activities, next week, Monday, a week from tonight, will be coronation. I'm not sure we're going to be ready, but I think we'll be ready. Anyway, so that begins the homecoming festivities for the homecoming 2016. So coronation will be on a Monday night. It'll be in the activity center like it was last year. It'll start at 7:30. A little bit later start allows us to make sure that our kids who are off for activities at other out of town or whatever can get back in time for that if they desire. And then, of course, there's events and things all throughout the week, and then Friday is a day filled with all sorts of things, outside speakers and Olympics, the football game at 7 o'clock, and the dance that follows. So a lot of the same stuff, but certainly bringing some of that kind of excitement to us as well. Any questions for the high school? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Schleckaway, anything tonight? Okay. Middle school, Mr. Thorson? Thank you. Intermediate school, Mr. Skipstead? Okay. Special services, Mr. Babb?
I want to let the board know that every year we put on 2 early childhood screenings, and the first one is going to be Thursday, September 29th, and it runs from 8:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. We have already about 62 children signed up to be a part of that early childhood screening. We'll go up to about 90. So anybody watching at home that wants their child to be evaluated or screened developmentally, please get a hold of my office, and that's at the Brandon Elementary School, 582-3446. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Elementaries, Ms. Foster, anything tonight? Okay, Mrs. Hayden? Mr. Horst? Mrs. Palmer? All right. Takes us to Director of Instruction, Ms. Styro, anything? Okay. And Operations Manager, Mr. Henschel, anything tonight? No, thanks. Okay. Mr. Marso, anything activities-wise? No, thanks. Okay. All right, there's no board policy to review tonight, so that takes us to general business, items number 1 and 2 under consent agenda to, well, consent agenda. So, I would entertain a motion to approve general business items 1 and 2. So moved.
Second?
It's been a first and a second. Did you want to make an announcement first?
I do. Item number 2 would be the official delegate for Associated School Boards of South Dakota Annual Assembly on November 18th. The individual board member who's willing to volunteer for that, is there one willing to volunteer?
It's me.
All right, so with that, we have the motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. That takes us to personnel consent agenda, items number 1 through 10. I would entertain a motion to approve those as presented.
So move.
Second.
There's a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. A couple items there for you to review under information only, some building permits and a thank you under the communication section, which takes us to the board report area. Is there anyone that has a formal board report tonight that they would like to share at all?
I'll just briefly give an update on the Child Nutrition and Wellness Committee. The committee met last week, although I was not able to attend myself. We had a plan that we had wanted to move ahead with to encourage weight loss of staff, but it ended up to be financially challenging because it was a pay-to-participate type of program, and while the Wellness Committee was willing to use some budgeted monies to subsidize that, we felt like it would end up being a pretty sticky process and maybe wouldn't achieve the level of participation that we would have liked. So we decided to scrap that, and we're going to move forward with 3 months of employee incentives that would be funded by monies that were budgeted for the Wellness Committee. So October, November, and December are the 3 months of programming. October is going to be like a staff bingo that one of the school nurses is putting together with prizes, incentive prizes. And then October is going to be a blood pressure screening that has been done in the district before for all employees. Gay Anderson wanted me to mention that the last time we did a free blood pressure screening for all staff, or made one available to all staff, she recalls about 5 people were detected to have a concern. And so I guess my opinion is if you can help one person, you've done a great thing. And we helped more than one, so that was good. So I'm looking forward to hearing the benefits of offering that screening again. And then December is going to be maintain and no gain, and there's going to be some incentive prizes for that as well.
Thank you, Mrs. Klatt. Anyone else have anything tonight from their committees? So do we need to get a safety meeting figured out at some point? Is that, okay, all right, we'll talk. Sounds good. Okay, travel reports are there for your review. So with that, that takes us to the end of our normal agenda, and I would entertain a motion to go into executive session under South Dakota Codified Law 1-25-2.1 for personnel issues. So moved.
Second?
There's been a first and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, so as soon as we have the room cleared, we will go into executive